There we go. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. This is an introduction to Microsoft Word 2016, in fact, the 2016 version. I'm your instructor. For those who don't know me, I'm Jeff Kalbariski. Been teaching at Benson now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. This year, of course, has all been mostly been online. So, that's me. Basically, we're going to talk about, Microsoft Word. I've got a lot of experience, which I'm going to share with you, blah, blah, blah. The most important thing on this screen, write it down if you don't already have it. Down at the bottom is my email address. So that's Jeff underscore, not the dash, the underscore, Kalbariski, spell that correctly, at earthlink.net. So write that down very carefully, because after this session is over, I want you to send me an email to that address, just saying that you are in the Microsoft Word class and you would like a copy of the slides. And I will be happy to send you all the slides that we're looking at now. So even though we won't finish all of it, because this is only a three-session course, because of the holidays coming up, there's only 3 sessions. All of it will be in there, and when I run the full course again in the new year, you're welcome to attend then. But I'm certainly happy to make all the material available to you. Also, during the course of the session, if you have any questions, you can either send them to me on the chat. There's a chat available to you on Zoom, or you can just ask the question. Don't hesitate. This is not a university lecture or anything. This is sort of a discussion, and I'm happy to hear questions. I'll take questions and try and answer them the best I can. If I can't answer your questions, I will always get back to you with an answer within a day if I have to go look anything up. Okay, so here we go. We're going to talk about Microsoft Word 2016. And as I say in this note at the bottom here, if you don't have a copy of Microsoft Office, no problem. I'm going to teach you how to get it for free, in fact, which is an amazing thing in its own right, because until a year or so ago, the word free and the word Microsoft in the same sentence was an oxymoron. Microsoft was like Kroger, nothing for free. You walk into Kroger, you want a pint of milk, you go to the checkout and you pay for it, right? It's nothing free. But now you can actually get Microsoft Word, or in fact, Microsoft Office for free. And in fact, let me just tell you how to do that now. I don't have any slides on it because I used to demonstrate it in class at Benson. But you go in the whole of Microsoft Office is available to you on the browser, right? Which is amazing, because that means there's no updates to the software. You're actually accessing Microsoft's own computers to use it. And so they will update the software, and you've always got the latest version. So you go in your browser to www.office.com. Very easy to remember that. It's called Microsoft Office. So you go to office.com, and in the top, somewhere on the far right, there's a button where you press the button. I don't remember exactly what it says, but it will be kind of obvious. And you get yourself a copy of it. You have to sign up and create an account. It's a bit of a stupid business, but to create an account, you just need an email address. So use your email address. It sets up an account for you. And in the future, to log back in, you just give your email address and a password. You will create a password, and then you'll come to a website that has got 5 buttons on it: Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the whole lot. They're all there. And you just click on the Word button or the PowerPoint button or the Excel button, and you've got the appropriate software. It's not exactly the same as 2016, the one that you buy, which is relatively cheap these days. You don't have. It used to be paid about $200 or $250 for it. It's now something like $5 or $6 a month. You kind of rent it. So it's not a big deal to get Microsoft Office, the full version, and that you get at Microsoft.com. You go to Microsoft.com and just do a search on get Office 2016. But if you prefer the free version, as I say, it's not exactly the same. They've stripped it down a bit. But by and large, everything that I'm going to teach you in this course is in the free version. So, that's something to consider. So let's talk about Microsoft Word. So I'm going to go right back to the very beginning and say, what is Microsoft Word? We've already spoken about some of the stuff, but Microsoft Word is the most popular word processing software that there ever was, right? Until Word came along, there was a program called Word Perfect. I don't know if anybody remembers Word Perfect, but Word Perfect, everybody used it. Everybody used Word Perfect for doing word processing. But Word Perfect wasn't graphic. You needed commands. It was text-based. Along came Microsoft Word, and for the first time, it had this graphical interface. They call it the GUI, or the GUI, the graphical user interface with pictures. And once that got going, by the time Word Perfect woke up, it was too late and they went out of business. They literally owned the market. They had millions of users of Word Perfect. And today, nobody's even, if you ask the kids today, none of them even heard of Word Perfect. And Microsoft Word and Excel put them out of business. There used to be a program called Lotus 123, which some of you may remember. And that was the most popular spreadsheet. I think you can still get Lotus 123, but along came Excel, which was graphical rather than text-based, and people liked it so much they just dumped Lotus 123, millions and millions of users. So Lotus 123 went from a $100 million company to zero, in a few months. They just didn't see it coming, and by the time they tried to catch up, it was too late. Just like BlackBerry. Anybody remember BlackBerry? The phone?
Yes.
Everybody had a BlackBerry. They used to call them the crackberry because people needed it. That was like being on crack. But they didn't have a screen. They had one with buttons. You remember it had the little buttons on? Once the iPhone came out, BlackBerry was toast. So it's interesting how just in the last 20 years, you've had these very, very successful companies, and they were all put out of business by Microsoft, right? The guy who developed Word and Excel, I think he was a Hungarian guy working for Microsoft, retired as a billionaire probably. And in fact, he was one of the first people who paid the Russians to go up to the space station. You remember a whole bunch of people, businessmen could pay, I don't know, $25 million or something to go to the space station. And he was one of the first guys who did. He made so much money out of this fantastic program called Microsoft Word. So basically, what is word processing? Well, a word processor is an app that really essentially at the bottom line replaces a typewriter, right? But of course, so it does what a typewriter does, which types words. That's why it's called Microsoft Word. But like most things on the computer, it does the same old job, but it does a lot better. So for example, your camera on your phone is just for taking pictures, but it does a heck of a lot more than your old Kodak. You remember your throwaway Kodak camera that you took all the pictures and then you took it to Wolf Camera and they developed it? Who remembers Wolf Camera, right? They're out of business too. They're gone, right? Because they also didn't see that the cell phone, the smartphones, the iPhone and the Android phone was going to do a better job. So that the camera in that phone not only takes pictures like your old Kodak, but it does a much better job. You don't need to develop them, and you can edit them, and you make them bigger and smaller, and they're foolproof. There's no way to take a blurred photo with your phone unless you actually jump up and down while you're taking the picture, right? But if you stand more or less still, even if your hand trembles a bit, the phone will solve that problem. So Word is exactly the same. It does all that stuff that we used to do on an old typewriter, but it does it much better. So it does a whole lot of things. For example, it does spell and grammar check, right? So most typos it will catch, and we'll see that as we go along, that if you misspell a word, or you fat finger it and leave out a letter or double a letter or something, or even if you use bad grammar, right? You say, I ain't got it. Well, it's going to tell you, do you want to correct that? It's there's a better way to say that. It allows you to do very professional formatting. So, on a typewriter, anybody could type on a typewriter, but to make it look really professional, like a legal contract or something like that, or a newspaper article, it was a lot harder to do. As you're going to see with Microsoft Word, making your formatting look consistent. It's the same from document to document, and highly professional is a snap. It's just so simple. It's, you know, you think of how hard it used to be in the old day. You can easily do things that you couldn't do on a typewriter, like put graphic images, what we call graphics, which means photographs or diagrams, into the document. So as we said earlier on, you could copy an address. Say you're at Amazon.com and you've got this, you know, great offer on some product or other, shoes, dresses, computer, whatever it might be. Not only can you copy the text out of it, but you could also copy the picture. So if there's a picture there of that particular item, you can copy that picture and put it into a Word document. So Word is perfectly happy to have photographs, pictures, diagrams. It can even have movies and videos, though nobody would probably ever do that, but you certainly could include a video so that there'd be a link in the document, and when you click it, the video would play. And of course, you can save and restore your documents. You can save them out so that they're still there. When you come back tomorrow, you can bring them back and continue, or, you know, a document that you worked on 2 weeks ago will still be there. You can copy and paste standard text in. So if you've got standard text, let's say, I don't know, in the days when we were sending out resumes to get a job, you know, instead of typing your name and address multiple times, you could save the name and address and then just pull it down straight into the document. Or if you're writing, you know, if you were writing, you know, letters to employers, for example, you could just copy the whole document, bring it back into Word, change the name of the company, a few minor details like that, and instantly you've done another letter without, you know, spending too much time. And lots more. You know, the beauty of Word is it's got 1,000 features in it, most of which, I admit to you, I'm not going to teach you, because it actually has an enormous number of things, most of which nobody ever needs. You know, very specialized people might need it, like maybe legal typists or somebody who does magazines or something. But for most of us who are just doing relatively straightforward documents, you don't need it, and we don't have time to teach you. But the good news is, because it's all graphical with pictures, little icons like on your phone, they did that, of course, long before the iPhone. Word was already around with the little pictures. It won't take you long to learn how to do other things, right? So beyond what I'm going to teach you, you'll find it's actually fun to figure out how to do other things, because it's consistent. It's not as if you're learning a new language and, you know, there are whole strange words that you don't know. It's that there may be features that I haven't taught you, but there'll be buttons to press that are kind of obvious. Or you can even ask Word. Word is very good. You can ask it in English. How do I do this? And I'll be happy to, we will see that as we move forward. So here's all the things you can do. You can create documents. We'll see how to do that. You can format documents. We're going to see all of that. You can edit them, which means you've done a document, you bring it back and you can edit it. You can change things. You can move things around. Stuff that you could not possibly do on a typewriter, you can now do here. You can move whole paragraphs around. You can move pages around. It's just amazing how much there is that you can do in the editing. You can save, of course, and you can print. So all of these are easy things to do. They require nothing more than mostly pressing a button. I'm going to show you which buttons to press. Example of documents, letters, correspondence, to-do lists, shopping lists, recipes. You know, I've had people who use it to build a whole book of recipes. So if you've got a, you know, a book of tattered recipes that you've had for years with bits of paper cut out from newspapers and stuff, just type them up. We've all got plenty of time now. Type them up, make them look good. You can even include a picture of the cake. You know, you could include it you can take a picture yourself on your phone, and you could actually include that picture in a Word document, you know, for that recipe. You know, formal business letters or formal business contracts, legal document, you can make them look beautiful. And the most interesting one is you can do brochures, flyers, invitations, right? So I've got a friend who's all three of his kids got married, and he did invitations for all three kids, saving one whole lot of money, right? Flyers, if you're on a committee at your church and you're having some kind of function, well, please God, we'll all have the vaccine one of these days and we'll be able to have functions again. But you can produce flyers, you can produce very professional looking brochures that are just as good as, looks like it was done by People magazine. It's that easy to do with Microsoft Word. So say here, the possibilities are endless. There's almost nothing that you can't do. You just got to figure out how to do it, how to get Microsoft Word to do it for you. Okay, so when we start the document, there is the little button that is called MS Word, Microsoft Word. It's a little button, a little icon that looks, and you can see it on the left side of the screen here. It's got a W on it, not S for Superman, but W for Word. And you can see the document behind it with the lines on it. And if you click on that icon, then Microsoft Word will open up. But even cleverer, if you have a Word document, let's say on your screen, you can see an icon for a Word document, a Microsoft Word document. If you click on it, it will automatically recognize it as a Word document, and it will open that document in Microsoft Word. So you don't even have to necessarily open Word first and go and get the document. If you just click on a document, Microsoft or Word says, oh, I recognize that, that's one of mine. And Microsoft Word will open up. The same applies to Excel or PowerPoint. If you click on an Excel document, Excel will wake up and say, aha, I recognize that document. It's an Excel document, and Excel will open it up. So when you click on that, let's say we're starting cold. Obviously, if we clicked on an existing document, it would open up. But yeah, let's say we're starting cold, and the first time you use it, you get this screen that says, you'll see a whole menu down the left. It's a very simple menu system. So there's, if you look at the items on the left, it says info, and that's junk. That just tells you what version of Word you've got and stuff like that. Not of great interest. Then there's new, which is highlighted. Below that is open, save, save as, print, share and export. I'll talk about that in later, and close. So opens, new says, I want to do a new document. I want to start a document that I've never had before. And if you click on new on the left, when this is the screen that you get, and here you see a sort of a bit of a confusing set of documents on the right. It's actually more than that. I couldn't fit it all on the screen. But what that really is Word maintains a whole set of different documents for you, formats of document. So there's a format of a report. Let's say you're still at school or college and you're writing a report. There's an excellent format already. And it's got no information in, but it's just been formatted as a report or as a legal document or whatever, right? Mostly I don't use those. The one you're normally going to use is this one where you can see the little arrow on, the little cursor, and that is a blank document. You can see it's a blank screen. It's like putting a blank sheet of paper into a typewriter. So all we now need to do on this is click on this, and a blank document will open up, and we can start, which we're going to do in a second. Let me just go through the other commands. So under new is open. Open, as the name suggests, open an existing document. So if you click on that, it will show you a list of the most recent 10 or 12 documents you've used. So, on the basis that if you've looked at 10 or 12 documents, one of these is the most likely one you want to work on now. It'll show you a list of all these documents, and you just double click on the one you want, and it will open up. If it isn't there, if you want to go back to a document you did last year, then there's an easy way to look for it, and I'll show you that too. Save and save as means save this document to disk. So save just makes a copy of it. So whatever changes you've made in the last 10 minutes, they will be saved to disk. Save as allows you to change the name of the document, right? So you can create the name of the document. The first time you save it, you usually use save as, because it doesn't know what name of the document, what the name of the document is. So you save as. Print is obvious. It will print the document to your printer. Share and export allow you to share the document with other people. We won't bother with that now. And close says just close out Word, I'm done, I'm finished for the day. In most cases, don't bother ever to close out Word, just leave it running, right? It doesn't cost anything, and then you don't have to go and look for it again. So let's say now we double click on this blank screen, and there it is. So a blank screen opens up, and it's a little confusing. I went through some of this before, but I'm going to revise everything again. We get this clearly this big blank screen with, you can see the line, the little line in the over in the corner right here, right? Which is, so there it is, which is the cursor. That's where my cursor is. So the cursor changes in Word to a little vertical line which flashes on and off, and you'll see it moving as you type, and a blank screen. Okay, so a couple of things about this blank screen is, firstly, it's got some stuff at the bottom, right at the very bottom of the screen down here, and then it's got this confusing bunch of strange pictures at the top. Okay, and the pictures at the top are called what? Anybody know? It's called the ribbon. Microsoft calls it the ribbon because it looks like a ribbon, right? You see that? And I'll go through these in much more detail. You'll actually see it's really quite simple. So on the, you'll see now we have a bunch of individual groups of commands. They call it a tab. You can see the tab that's sticking up is home. So this is your main tab. This is your home. And I very, very seldom ever go out of home, right? Because 95% of what you want to do, maybe 99%, is done in this home section. But there are a bunch more tabs you can see here. Next to home is insert, design, layout, references, mailings, review, and view, right? Most of those you're never actually going to use, right? So we won't even discuss them at this time. It opens up and it defaults to home, and almost anything that you're going to want to do, we're going to talk about, is done through the home. Now, when you press another one of those tabs, let's say you press the design tab, if you just click over here where it says design, a new ribbon will open. So it doesn't try and show you everything. In the old days before, like with WordPerfect, for example, earlier word processors, all the functions were there, and it was really confusing. What Microsoft has done a really good job of here is just separating the function. So if you don't need to know all the functions under design or layout, you don't have to see them. Right now, we don't need them. Most times, very seldom do you need them, right? Unless you're doing some unusual stuff. So this is the home tab is, as the name suggests, the primary one you're going to be wanting to look at. The white screen is your blank sheet of paper. And you can see that the cursor is slightly down from the top, right? Can you see the cursor here? In real life, this little line over here would be flashing on and off, right? That's where the cursor is. That's where you're at. So if I start typing, that cursor will move over to the right, okay? The reason that it's not right at the top of the page, that there's a gap there, is because Word will allow you to put a header on each page, right? So you can put a header. If you're writing a book, for example, the header might be the name of the chapter and the page number. So you might have chapter 1, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then on the far right, page 1, page 2, page 3, or whatever you want in the header, right? If it's a contract, it might say contract to sell a car, right? Or something, automobile sale, whatever it might be, you can put. So that gap in there, that little gap there is for a header. And equally, there's a gap at the bottom of the page, and you can have a footer on the page. So if you look in books, sometimes the page number is on the bottom, in the middle of the bottom line of a page. So the bottom line of the page will be right in the middle. It would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever else you want to put. Sometimes they put, if it's a legal document, it might have a place for you to sign, that to initial that you've read this page. But mostly we don't really care about that. We're interested in this blank section in the middle when we start typing. So before we do that, let me talk to you now. Let's talk a little bit about this rather confusing ribbon at the top. It's got a whole lot of stuff in. It kind of looks, at first glance, it looks like, if you ever look into the cockpit of an airplane these days, when you get on the plane, you look in the pilot's cockpit, it's got dials and knobs and buttons and switches. How does he ever fly the plane? Well, of course, he's been trained how to do it. Same here, of course, but in fact, this is much easier than the inside of a Boeing or Boeing cockpit. So the way they've done it is actually very, very clever. So this is the ribbon, looks like a ribbon, horizontal ribbon, for the home page or the home tab, And then within this home tab, there are individual functions, which we use all the time. And you'll see it's not easy to see because they've done it very lightly, but you can see there's a series of thin gray lines, vertical lines. There's one here, there's one here, and then there's one there. There's actually 3 of them, all right? So between the gray lines, each one of them is a different function, and you don't have to remember what they are. Below, in the middle of the function, it's got what it is. So this one says font. Can you see the word font? This one says paragraph. This one says clipboard, right? And the one on the far right says styles. We won't bother with styles, but we certainly will look at the others right now. So first of all, let's look at the one on the far left that says clipboard, right? So basically you can copy stuff to the clipboard in Word, or you can paste it back from the clipboard. So Iris, if you had been at another site, like let's say a website or another document or a text or something, and you'd copied something out, it would be in the clipboard when you did Control-C, like I told you. But here you can see there's a button that says paste. So right now, wherever my cursor is, if I press the paste button, can you see that paste button? It looks like a clipboard. Can you see it's got a little teeny weeny clipboard on it? If I click on that, it would paste back right where the cursor is, whatever's in the clipboard, right? Isn't that useful, right? That's all you, so you can either use Control-V to bring it back, Control-V for Victor, or you can press this button here. You don't much use the clipboard here. I don't. It's much easier to do, I think, Control-C and Control-V because you don't have to fiddle around. But the one that is useful is there's a paste. That's the big button. There's a slightly smaller button next to it that's grayed out with like 2 documents next to each other. That's the copy. The reason it's grayed out right now is there's nothing to copy. I haven't highlighted anything, so they gray it out. And right below it is what looks like a paintbrush. Can everybody see that? This little paintbrush here? And that's a very clever thing. That is copying the format. So if you have one paragraph and you've formatted it, you've used certain, you've laid it out in a certain way, you can copy the format of that paragraph and then paste it somewhere else. So you can make another paragraph 3, look exactly like, different words, but the formatting, the layout will be exactly the same as paragraph 1, just by copying the formatting. We won't do very much of that, but I'll show you how we do it. Where the real action is the next 2 little entries. The one that says font and the one that says paragraph. Let's move forward. Okay, so here makes it a little easier to see. It's a bit bigger. Okay, so you can see the copy over here. Why copy is smaller than paste, I don't know, but it is. With the two little documents, they're grayed out because there's nothing to copy. There's the paintbrush, which copies the format. There's the paste button. And then at the top, there's a pair of scissors, right? And scissors means copy it to the clipboard, but cut it out. It's as if you were cutting out that paragraph from a newspaper and pasting it somewhere else. So copy just copies it. And when you bring it back, you will have 2 copies of the document, the original one and wherever you copied it to. If you use the little pair of scissors, it kind of snips out the original one, it disappears, and you copy it somewhere else. So if I had paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, and I decide that paragraph 2 is in the wrong place, I want it at the bottom after what is paragraph 4. Well, obviously I could copy paragraph 2, put my cursor down below paragraph 4 and say Control V, which would bring it back. But then I'd have two copies and I'd have to go back and delete the original one. This one saves you having to do that. So if you use the scissors button, it will copy it to the clipboard and delete the original, right? So now when I copy it down below, paragraph 2 will now become paragraph 4, right? So that's kind of useful. And you can see it says here, clipboard. Now, in each case, by the way, of each of these little sections, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. We're only interested in the first 3. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's this little arrow pointing down to the right. Can you see that? There's an arrow there, there's a little arrow there, and there's a little arrow there pointing down to the right. That little arrow sort of with a right angle above it, it's an arrow pointing down like that, always means if you click that button, you get more options. So Word tries not to confuse you by showing you that for font, there's 25 options. It would confuse us if you saw all 25. So all that font is showing you on the screen is the most common option. But if you click the little down arrow, a new menu will open up with a whole lot more things in it. And we'll see that happen in a moment. So now we know what the clipboard does. The font, this whole section here, from this gray line here to that gray line there, is related to functions that have to do with the font that you're typing. And the font is just the way the letters look, right? So font really means the way the letters look. We can have different kinds of fonts. So if you look in a newspaper, you will see that in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the font isn't quite the same. The letters, if you look carefully at them, are different to what they might be in, say, People magazine, right? Different productions or newspapers, magazines, whatever, books, choose their own font. You can have a different font for every document you like, as you wish, or use the same font. I use the same font all the time. It's hardly worth the trouble of changing, but you can change them. And then there are all kinds of subsidiary functions below inside this area that we're going to look at in a few minutes. The next one that says paragraph, that is related to each paragraph. So once you've typed a paragraph, that section allows you to make the paragraph look the way you want. You can center it, like if it's a heading, you'd want it right in the middle, or you can text justify it so it lines up on both sides, and a whole bunch of other things, right? We will come to that in a moment. Any questions so far?
I happen to have 2013. Is that one way off?
That's way off. You're obsolete. Your history. No, I'm just kidding you. It's all about 98% the same. Right?
Okay.
So if you later get a version of 2016, it'll read all your documents that you created with 2013 and vice versa, right? It's just that 2016 has got a few more features in, most of which you probably don't want to use anyway, right? So Microsoft's doing a good job of making the versions compatible with each other. There was a time when that wasn't true, and then if you used version 3 and you'd written a document with version 1, version 3 couldn't read the document from version 1, which is kind of crazy, right? It's like you buy the latest model of your car and they've moved the gear lever into the trunk and they put the steering wheel in the back seat. That wouldn't be smart. And they used to do that. Don't ask me why. Now they've become consistent. So the simple answer to your question is if you have an older version of Word, within reason, if you've got a 25-year-old version, it may not work anymore, right? Because they've had so many changes. But mostly they're allowing them to be consistent. So most of what I'm going to teach you will be the same in 2030. I don't remember 13 anymore, what was in it, but I think it does have the ribbon. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, it has the ribbon. The only thing I've seen different so far is that format paste. It's not right there, but it's there, and the scissors are not in the exact same place.
Right, they may have moved things around a little bit.
Yeah, but that's the only difference I've seen so far.
Good. Then it means that it's likely that everything we talk about here will work. So there we are. We see those are the various tabs. Again, you see in the red box, File, Home, Insert. Each one of those, if you click on each one of them, it'll become a little tab. So if I click on Layout, this Home tab will disappear. It'll just say home in white like all the rest of them. And then layout will go black on white like this, and it'll pop up like a tabs on file folders that you might keep in your filing system. So each one of them you can click on. These are all active, right? And each one has a different series of functions in them, but I'm not going to go into most of them because everything's here. Only other thing I want to tell you about is up here, you see it says document 1 in Word. So it doesn't know what you want to call this document. This is a brand new document. So it just calls it document 1. But as soon as you do save as, right, which is in the file section over here. So if you click file, then you get that screen that we saw right at the beginning, right? And you can now save as. That will immediately change. Let's say you save it as, let's say you're writing a monthly column. So you write a column for December 2020, my column. You call the document my column, December 2020. That's what you'll see up here where it says document 1. That'll go away and it'll change the name. Obviously, you probably don't want to call your document 1. Word just needs a name for it. So it calls your documents document 1, document 2, document 3, and so on. But you can immediately change that simply by doing the save as. So each tab is related commands. That's what I told you already. Right. So here's an example. Remember I said that the little arrow in the bottom right-hand corner of each group of commands opens up a new menu. So if you press that little, if you just click on that tiny little arrow, it's quite small, you'll see here suddenly a menu opens up, right? And there's a whole lot more features that you might need. The number of times you're going to do this is very small. So in most cases, you never need to click on that button. But there are many more functions. Sort of, you can imagine these are extra functions that sort of sit behind the ribbon, right? And you can call them up whenever you want. I very seldom do that in general. So there's a whole lot more stuff that you can do with the paragraph section. You can see it says headed paragraph, and it's got a whole lot more stuff, most of which you don't need. You can do almost everything you want just with a standard ribbon. Another feature that's useful is, so over here, you can see now, here's the name of the document, right? .docx. So all documents in Windows, all documents have a name followed by a period with a period at the end, and then 3 or 4 letters after that. Here's 4 letters that say docx. So docx is a Word document. They used to call it .doc. And then somewhere along the way, Microsoft introduced this strange X. So whether your document is saved as a .doc or a .x doesn't seem to make any difference. So why they needed the X, I don't know. And then it just says next to you -Word. So it's a Word document. If it was an Excel document, it would say .xlsx. XLS is Excel spreadsheet. Doc is obviously a Word document. PowerPoint will be a PPTX document, PPT for PowerPoint, right? So all of these will generally have doc. You don't have to type docx, it'll automatically do that. So if you call this thing, my autobiography chapter 1, it will write a document or a file called my autobiography chapter 1 .docx. It'll put the docx in for you. Never mess around with that terminator, that .docx. Don't delete it or anything like that, because then Windows will not know what kind of document it is. It needs that at the end of the document to say, this is a Word document, and it's interpreted by Microsoft Word. Now, you'll also see that what's very interesting is Word has what they call a tell me feature. It's really ask me feature. And you'll see over here, it says, tell me what you want to do. It should be ask me what you want to do, right? And there's a little light bulb there. Some of them are slightly different. The latest versions, I think now just have a little window there with a magnifying glass on. So the standard everywhere in a computer these days, the little magnifying glass means that's search, look for things. You know, imagine you have a magnifying glass. So if you put your cursor down here, where it says, tell me what you want to do, and it may have different words there, you can actually start typing in there, and you type in English. Tell me how to, and we'll see all the kinds of things you can do, right? You can actually ask it, and then it'll instantly show you the correct place, the button to push, and all that kind of stuff. So it's very useful. You really don't need a user manual that we used to have in the old days. Okay. So here's an example where I've typed in, can you see here the little arrow, the little light bulb, but these days it's now the magnifying glass. I said, how do I add page numbers in? I can't remember how to put page numbers on the document. And that happens to me all the time. There's something you only do once on a document of where you want the page numbers.
I don't think I have that feature, that tell me feature. I don't think
you may not have it. Exactly. You may not have it, right? I think that is one that came out with 2016.
Right.
So I said, add page numbers. It says, oh, you want add page numbers. And then it says, you can add page numbers. It's highlighted it over here. And then there's a little arrow to the right. And there's a whole lot of things of where you want the page number. Top of the page, bottom of the page, blah, 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 right? You can see that? So you can ask it some quite complicated questions, and it mostly gets the answer right. And you don't need any computer terminology. You type it in good old plain English. Okay, so let's look at a document and see what happens. So what I've given you here actually is a very complicated document. We're going to use as an example. What you really need to do with Word, Word is like riding a bicycle. You got to go out and ride the bicycle. You can't learn how to read a bicycle by reading a manual or even listening to me talk. The way you learn Microsoft Word is go get a magazine article or a newspaper article or a book and type it out. Type out a couple of paragraphs and try and do all the stuff that we're going to learn how to do. So you can see that this is, a legal document is a complicated document. It has all kinds of font, font like this here. We've got the header in the middle, and it's bold, it's darker, right? And it's all in caps. And then over here we have this, and again, it's all in caps, and then some words in it are highlighted. And then we've got a new paragraph with a blank space between the two paragraphs, and so on and so forth. And it, it's not easy to see, but this has done something that's actually very clever and was almost impossible to do on a typewriter. Can you see that the text is lined up on the left? They're all lined on the left here. And it's lined up on the right too, right? Which is pretty impressive. Now to do that, you think, how does it do that? It makes every line exactly the same length. Well, Word is really, really clever. And to do that takes one button push, and we're going to talk about that button push. And then how do I get paragraphs that have, there's a gap up? They want in legal documents, they want a gap between the paragraphs. And then down below here, I have section 1, highlighted, services and payment, indented. Can you see that it's indented a little bit? And then subsection, so I've got paragraph 1, subsection A is further indented, and so on and so forth. Very complicated stuff, right? Absolutely simple to do with Microsoft Word. And we're going to see that's, I'll come back to this document. So let's talk about one more thing. I said also there were some things at the bottom of the page. So if you go back to the previous one, we can see the bottom of the page. For some reason, I don't know why computers are like this, the screen is wider than it's high, right? You agree? Your screen is wider across than it is up and down. The length of the screen or the width of the screen is greater than the height of the screen. But pages of paper are the other way around. So if you look at a page of, from a notebook, it's higher this way and shorter that way. So really the screen is the wrong way around. It should be turned 90 degrees. And I certainly worked with word processors in the old days where the screen was like that. Because the screen is like this now and we can't change it, you can't necessarily see the whole document. So how do we scroll down? Well, the two ways you can scroll down. If your cursor is anywhere in the document, you can press the arrow keys on your keyboard. So if you press the down arrow key, it'll go down and the document will scroll up, right? So if you want to go down that way, to the bottom of the document, you press the down key, but the document actually scrolls up, sort of in the reverse order. You're pressing the down arrow, the document goes up, so you can see the next line and the next line, and you can. That's one way to scroll the document. The other way to scroll the document is there is a scroll bar, and this is a useful thing to know for everything in Windows. Can you see this gray bar on the right? You see on the far right, there's a gray bar, and it's got a little white rectangle at the top. So a scroll bar is like a railway track, and that's the train on the railway track. So all we have to do is grab that little bar, that little train, and we can pull it down. We can move it up and down. So how do we grab it? Does anybody know? How do I actually tell Windows I want to grab it? I obviously can't grab it with my hand because it's just a picture, but I can actually tell Windows I want to grab it. And that's exactly, huh?
Click on it.
Well, you click on it, but it isn't going to grab it. It's what I taught you about the copy and paste. Remember when you wanted to highlight
click and
something,
hold.
click and hold. So you hold it with the right button, right? This button here, your forefinger, and you hold it down. When you hold down the left mouse button, the one on the left, the one you use most, and that is actually telling Windows to grab it. Now, in earlier versions of Windows, when you did that, the cursor changed to a hand, like a hand grabbing it. I thought that was a great idea. They've taken that away. I don't know why. So now you grab it like that, and now you can just, keeping your finger on the mouse button, don't let it go, you can now move it up and down, and the page will scroll up and down. So you can either just use your cursor keys, right? Everybody got the cursor keys in the bottom right-hand corner of your keyboard. They've got little arrows on them. There's arrow to the left, arrow to the right, up and down. And the left and the right arrows work as well. So if I'm typing somewhere over here in the middle of this line, if I use the left key, the left arrow key, it moves to the left. If I use the right arrow key, it moves to the right. So I can jump whole words just by moving to the left to right. And if you hold down the arrow key, then it continues to move. So if I hold down the down arrow key, the one that's pointing downwards, and I hold it down on the keyboard, it will continue scrolling. The page will keep scrolling up, and I can go down 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, as far as I want to go, right? Now, at the bottom of the page here, if you can see here, and I've now scrolled to the bottom of the page, it's got 2 useful bits of information that I'm just going to mention to you. On the left, it says page 1 of 7. So this tells you that this document, this contract, is 7 pages long, and this is page 1. If I scroll to the next page, it will say page 2 of 7, page 3 of 7, and so forth, right? So you know where you are in the document. It's, mostly not very useful, but if you've got a very big document with 40 pages in it, it's useful to know that you're in page 36 or whatever. And then next to it, it tells you how many words in the whole document. And this document has got 2,838 words. Mostly that is of no interest to anybody of how many words you've got. It was useful to me. I used to write a column every week for a magazine, and I had a fixed number of words. I had to get this whole thing into like 300 words. So I used to watch that carefully. So if it said, I typed it out and it was now 400 words, I know that I got to go and cut it down and get 100 words out. But mostly you don't care. On the right is a very useful slider. Can you see this horizontal line? It says minus and plus, and it's got a bar in the middle. That is the size of the document on the screen. Now, if you're having trouble seeing very small print or something, or you want to see the whole page on the document, you can make the document smaller, and it will fit on the screen size. Now, it's not changing the document, it's just changing what you see on the screen. And the way you do that, there's 2 ways to do it.
I don't think I have that feature either, but I use view for that.
You can use view for that, exactly. So the view function allows you to do this, but in the latest version, they put it at the bottom, and there it is. So there are several ways to kill the cat, right? So the way you can now change the size of the document on the screen is 2 ways. You see on the right, it says 100%. This document, as you're looking at it, is exactly what it's going to look like when you print it. Exactly. But let's say I want to see the whole page. So I must make the document a little smaller. So all I'd have to do is point at that 100% with my cursor and type a new number, smaller than 100%. So if I type 75% there, the document will become 3/4 the size. It probably then will fit nicely on the page and I can see the whole thing. Maybe I need to see the layout that the paragraphs are right, or you can even go smaller and you could see 2 pages. When it gets small enough, you'll be able to see 2 pages next to each other, which you might want to do if you're doing a brochure. So if you want a nice brochure, let's say for your, your church, or you're selling your car or something, you make a brochure, you might want to see that the whole thing looks pretty and lines up properly. You might take it down to 50%, and then you can take it.
Just a 2-hour class.
Say again?
It's just a 2-hour class.
Is this? No, this is a 1-hour class.
Okay.
Right, we're going to finish in a few minutes, right? Okay. The other way to change the size of the document is there's a slider, what we call a slider. It's the same as the slider on the right, which allows you to go up and down. This one makes it bigger and smaller. So all you have to do is grab that bar. You see that little bar in the middle? Grab it. We know how to grab it. Hold down the mouse, point at it, grab it, hold down the mouse button, and then you can move it left and right. You'll find when you point at that, hold it down, you can move it left to make it smaller or right to make it bigger. Okay. Again, don't often do that. It'll only be if you wanted to see the whole document before you print it. You don't want to waste paper. You don't have to do that. You just print your document out and say, oh, it doesn't look right, correct it, and then print it again. But this is a way to be able to see it exactly as it's going to print without having to waste paper. Most times we don't care. So let's now start looking at some of the stuff, of the things that you can do. So we'll get into this. So the first thing is we're going to talk about font, our friend font over here. So here I've written, here's a document. It's probably part of some kind of scientific essay that somebody's written for school or college about dinosaurs. And it says dinosaurs are a diverse group of reptiles. Then it says note 1, which means down at the bottom of the page or at the back of the document, there's a note which has got more information of the clay Dinosauria, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Doesn't matter. Don't expect this. There's no quiz next week on dinosaurs. Don't worry about that. This is just as an example. So what do we see in that document? There are all kinds of interesting things if you look more carefully. And these are also in the newspaper or the magazine that you read. Most of us don't even notice it because we see it all the time. But if you start looking carefully, you'll see interesting stuff. What can you tell me about the first word, dinosaurs?
It's bolded.
It's bold. It's not the same size as all the rest. It means I want to highlight that word, right? And newspaper articles or magazine articles often do that. They highlight the first word. How did I do that? Okay, the answer is incredibly simple. So before I started typing the word dinosaur, I go to my font section. Can you see the font there? And there are 3 little letters over here. They say B, I, and U. And what do you think the B stands for?
Bold.
Bold. So now if I press the bold button, all I have to do is click on it and it will change color. It'll have a little sort of gray box around it, which means it's on. It's like turning on a light switch. As I type, what will I see? Bold text. How do I turn it off?
Click it again.
Click it again. There isn't an on and off. You don't need 2 switches. It's like a light switch. If it's down, it's on. And if it's already on and you press it again, it turns it off, right? So if you click it again, it stops, right? And now carry on, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we'll come back to this note 1 in a moment. And then look at the word of the, I don't know what a clade is, kind of like a genus or something, a group of things, of the Dinosauria. What can you say about the word Dinosauria?
Italicized.
It's kind of leaning over like a drunken sailor, right? It's leaning over to the right. We call that italics. How do you think I would do that?
Hit the I.
Hit the I, exactly. So now before I start typing the word Dinosauria, I press the I button and instantly all the text that I type now is going to lean over to the right. When I'm finished typing, get to the A of Dinosauria at the end, what do?
Click.
Click it again.
Yeah.
That's right. That's it. Isn't that easy? Look at the next line. that first appeared during the Triassic period. What's interesting about Triassic period? It's got an underline. How do you think I do that?
Click on the U.
Click on the U. So they're very clear. You can see the B is actually bolded, it's darker. The I is actually leaning over like italics, and the U has got an underline. If you can't remember what the letters stand for, you can actually see that they've showed you what it's going to do. So before I start typing Triassic period, I press the U button, I type Triassic period, I press the U button again, and everything is underlined. Now, let me see how smart you guys are, how much you've been listening. Supposing I've already typed this document and I didn't bold the word dinosaurs at the beginning. And now I come back to it and I look and I say, you know, I wanted to bold that word, right? Or I want to underline those words Triassic period, which I didn't do before. But I've already typed it. So how am I going to make it bold now?
Put your cursor over there.
You got to put your cursor, but you got to tell it what to bold, how far. Do you want to bold the whole line, 2 words, 1 word, 3 words? What you got to do is highlight it.
Right.
You remember how I told you to highlight? You put it at the beginning, hold down the left button and drag it across the word dinosaurs. As you drag it to the right, as you drag your cursor to the right, you'll see the word dinosaurs will change color. It'll either go to white on black, or in some versions, it'll be blue behind it or gray behind it. You'll be able to see that it's different. That's why they call it highlighted. You remember how we used to highlight text in our textbook with a yellow highlighter? It won't be yellow, but you'll see that it's highlighted. Let's say you go too far. I dragged it and oh my gosh, I went over to the word R. I didn't want R, I just want dinosaur. Just go back, right? Just go back. And wherever you are at the end, wherever you stop, when you let go of the left mouse button, if you now press the bold, that's what will be bolded, right? And let's say I change my mind. I don't want it bolded anymore. I want it underlined, okay? So I would highlight it, press the bold again. What will that do? It'll unbold it, right? Highlight it again and press the U and it'll underline it. Can you see that? So by highlighting, they call it highlighting. It's actually a bad name because you're not really, doing the highlighting, which you can do. You can highlight text. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really selecting text. It's kind of like saying to Word, I want this text, and you can choose as many words as you want, the whole line, the whole paragraph. You can bold the whole paragraph, or italicize the whole paragraph, or underline the whole paragraph. Easy. Or any number of words. So again, you either, before you start typing, you hit the button and then type the word and then hit the button again, which turns it off. Or if you've already typed it, just go and highlight it, right? So if I wanted to highlight that whole first line, I could put my cursor on the left, drag it all the way to the word first, all over on the right-hand side, and then hit the bold button and everything would be bolded. You can bold as much as you like, or as little as you like. You're in total control. So we've got bold, underline, and our friend italic over there. Now, one more thing to notice, and then I think we will break. There's another thing about the word dinosauria. It is in italics, but what else do you notice?
It's got a line underneath there. It's spelling.
A little squiggly red line under it, right? And that squiggly red line says?
Spell check. Do
spell
something.
Check. So Word has got a dictionary. It's checking every word you type in against a huge dictionary. And it says, I ain't seen this word before. And the reason is it's a scientific term, right? So you can either correct it. Let's say it should have been dinosaur. So I would go back, put my cursor at the end of the word and then backspace twice. Remember, you've got the backspace key. Backspace will delete to the right. Or I could put my cursor between the R and the I and hit the delete key. So you've got a delete key in the top of your keyboard, the top right-hand side of your keyboard is a delete key. So delete deletes to the right and backspace deletes to the left. Why they called it two different words, I don't know, but one deletes what's to the right of the cursor and one pushes the cursor back and deletes the letters. And then as soon as I did that, the word dinosaur would be correct. But now I am perfectly happy with the word dinosauria. So if I leave it like that, will it print out with a squiggly line, which I don't want?
No.
No, the squiggly line's only on the screen, right? On the screen, only on the screen. Also, let's say, you know, I spelled reptiles, I don't know, with 2 P's. And it put a squiggly line in the reptiles. And I think that reptiles has 2 P's. I don't know how to correct it. I don't know what's wrong with it. If I right click on the word, now the right click, the other click, in general in Windows, right clicking brings up a new little menu. The right click here will say, tell me what's wrong with this word. And it will show you a list of likely words that will be. So if I spelled reptiles with 2 P's, it will say this should be reptiles, right? Spelled like that. But sometimes it may not know what the heck you did. You may have letters reversed or whatever, and it may show you 2 or 3 words. By just clicking on the one that's right, you don't even have to retype it. So I could correct this. If I spelled reptiles with 2 P's, I could either just go in and delete the 1 P. Oh, it was a typing error. Or wait a minute, I thought reptiles had 2 P's in. Right click on it and you'll see it'll show you reptiles and some other word that might fit that as well, right? Peptiles, I don't know. It would usually show you 1, 2, or 3 words that may fit that. If there's only one possibility, like reptile, that's it. And if you click on that, it will change the word for you. So you can either correct it yourself or you can let Words Dictionary correct it for you. Sometimes it'll show a whole paragraph or a whole series of words with a little underline on. That means your grammar's wrong, right? Let's say I said, a horse with 4 legs are nice. Well, it's going to say to you that are nice isn't right. It really should be a horse with 4 legs is nice. The sentence, the subject of the sentence is horse, not legs, right? It will pick that up. Even though you spelt it all correctly, it will say this isn't correct. Or if you use, you know, poor English, like, you know, you use, you know, colloquial English sometimes, slang, it will pick that up. And you can leave it as it is, or you can change it. So basically then it's looking very carefully at everything you've done, and it will find errors and correct them for you. There's only one more thing I just want to show you, and then we'll end off. Remember, I said to you, highlighting when we selected text was a bad word. It really should be select text. There is actually a highlight pen. So let's say we did want to highlight it. You remember with a yellow pen? If you look under font, can you see this little symbol here that looks like a pen? It's but it says A, B, it's got a pen and it's got yellow under it, right? Can you see this one here? If you now highlight some words and then press that button, the words stay, you know, the text is still black, it's typed in black, but it becomes, the background becomes yellow, as if you had highlighted it with a pen.
Oh, right? Wow.
Isn't that clever? That's so you can do that too. And then one last thing, you'll see next to the little symbol, the little icon with the pen in the yellow, there's a little arrow. Can you see the down arrow right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you click that arrow, normally the down arrow, like I said earlier, with these arrows in the corners, it brings up more options. So if you click on that little arrow, what more options do you think you're going to get?
Different colors?
More colors. It'll show you red and blue and green and yellow and purple. You can choose whatever color you want. So if you wanted to highlight that in green instead of yellow, that's all it takes. Is you'll see green. You just click on green, and the highlight will become green or purple or whatever you like. But the default, the Windows has done a very good job, or Word has done a good job. The most likely one you want when you highlight is yellow, because that's normally what we did when we were at college or at high school, right? You can highlight it in yellow. So anything that you could do in the old days by either writing or typing, you can now do on this simply by pressing a button. So last point then, we've got a bunch of things here that allow us to change the font, change the way it is, make it bigger, make it smaller. We'll come to that next time, and make it bold and underline and blah, blah, blah. These are just by pressing little buttons there. So very last point then, above the BIU, you'll see a box that says Calibri, right? And then it's got the number 14 next to it. That is the type of font each font has a different name. There are dozens of fonts, hundreds. I think there's at least 100 fonts, right? Of all different shapes and sizes, including handwriting fonts. You can type your text so that it looks like you handwrote it, believe it or not. So if you click, you can see next to the word Calibri, which is the name of the font. So this font that you've got here is called Calibri. The name doesn't mean anything. That's just what it's called. But you'll see the little arrow again next to it. And if you click on that, what do you think you're going to see?
Different kinds of.
All fonts. There'll be about 60 or 70 or 100 of them. You can change them. They're big ones, small ones, black, dark, Gothic. You can even, have you ever seen Gothic writing like they used to write in the Middle Ages? You've even got that if you wanted it, and handwriting font and mathematical symbols or what have you. The number next to it, 14, is a meaningless number for our purposes. It's not in inches or anything like that, but it's the size of the text. So mostly just use the standard size. But if you wanted this text to be bigger, what would you do? You'd either type over the 14, you could make it 20, or press the little arrow, which will show you 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. You can go up to about 75. So when would you use this text size as big as like 75? Whenever would you do that?
A poster?
You're making a poster, exactly. I want to sell my car. I make a big poster that says for sale, and it'll fit on one page in huge, big text. I could go I think it goes as high as 72 or something like that, which is gigantic. Or I can go as small as 8 when it's barely visible. Why you'd want to do that, I don't know. So you can so there we've seen now how to change the font. Mostly don't bother with it, right? Take the default font that's there. Change the size, bigger or smaller. We can bold it, we can underline it, we can italicize it, and we can highlight it, right? And pretty much, there are a few more things I'm going to show you, but that's a heck of a lot of stuff to do, isn't it? That's just about everything you're ever going to want to do in a document. So all I'm going to next time show you is more about the formatting of the overall document. It's presentation as opposed to the individual detail. But now you know how to select text, change the way it looks, make it bigger, make it smaller, change its font. It's all there in this one little small area called font, which is amazing if you think they got all of that into this tiny little area. Now it looks complicated, but actually it's not once you know what all those little buttons are. Any questions? I hope that wasn't too confusing. I'm going at a much higher speed than I would normally do because we've got a limited amount of time because of the holidays coming up. But again, what I suggest now is go and practice. This is like riding a bicycle, as I said. You can't learn to swim or ride a bicycle by reading a book. Swim, you've got to get in the pool, and ride a bicycle, you've got to get on a bicycle or drive the car. So go take a book or a newspaper or something and just type out an article, right? And watch what happens when you get to the end of the line. You don't have to, carriage return like you did on the old typewriter. It will automatically do that for you, right? It knows where the end of the line is, and if the word doesn't fit on this line, it'll automatically take it to the next line. You can see that happening, and then go and do some bolding and some italics and changing fonts if you wish. You can make any individual word a different size. So if I wanted this word dinosaurs, the first word, to be bigger, that's what they sometimes do in newspaper articles. The first word is bigger of a paragraph. All I have to do is highlight the word dinosaurs, go up here and change it to not 14, but say 16 or 18, right? The numbers don't really mean much. You can just play with it yourself. Do you want it to be 16, which is a little bit bigger? You want it to be 18, which is quite a lot bigger. You want it to be 20, it's much bigger, right? You can do that with any word or even any letter. You could make just the letter D 20 instead of 14. And you have a big D, and then the rest of it will be in the normal font. So all of that is possible. And it's, as they say, it's as easy as falling off a log, right? There's nothing to it.
I got a question to ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right there where the B, I, and U is, there's an ABC and there's an X2 and an X1. X1's are highlighted. Why?
So good question. Okay, well, that really was for next week. but I'll just tell you what it is now and we'll discuss it again next
okay,
week.
you can save it.
No, it's easy.
Okay.
X is the letter, any letter. The 2 is down below. That's a subscript.
Okay.
And on the second one, the one that's highlighted, the 2 is up above, which is a superscript. So that little word there, note 1.
Okay.
So it made it smaller and it took it up. That's it.
Okay.
But I'll show you how we use it next time.
Okay.
But that's what I mean by, if you're not sure what it is, all you have to do is highlight a word, press the button, see what happens, right?
Okay.
and can it blow up in your face? No. Can it hurt you? No. Can you undo it? Yes. Right? No, there's nothing that you can't try here without getting into too much trouble.
Is it a way to have your font default to a certain font, or do you have to change it every time?
You mean you like to type it in 16 or something? Yes. I haven't taught you how to do that yet.
Okay, but I'll wait till you get to it.
So normally this is the default, and you'll find for most things you do, the default is perfectly okay. You don't have to change anything. But if you prefer your document to look different, then that's that one on the far right here called styles, right? So you can see highlighted is normal. This is the normal way to put it, but you can change it, right? You can change it. So you can have your normal different to my normal, whatever you want. You can have the letters bigger, smaller. Maybe you don't like this font, you want a different font. All of that is in the style. And then once you set that up, Word will remember it for the next time.
Okay.
Go away and try it. And then I have set you one important piece of homework. What was that at the beginning? Send me an email.
Oh,
if you want the slides, send me an email.
You have something on your email that says you have to review.
Yeah. You may find, being a security geek, I have a much higher level of security because I want to keep the bad guys out of my email, right? So you'll get a message that says, you're not allowed to send Jeff email unless he approves it. But I know that you've sent that to me. So I get a whole lot of those. Most of them I just throw away because it's trying to sell me something. But if I see one from you, I just click on the button and it unlocks it and you're okay, right?
But you don't have to send it again.
You don't have to send it again. No, you don't have to send it again. But it's basically to keep the junk mail out, because the guys who send me junk mail, they get this message and they think, oh, well, it's not worth sending Jeff any more crap. So they don't send me anymore. And that's what I want.
If you need to teach us that.
Excuse
me. Okay, but we do need to send one today, right?
You need to send one today or tomorrow, whatever.
Okay.
If you send it today, I will try and get it back to you by the end of the day, or it'll be the first of next week. It'll be
okay.
I'll be traveling on Sunday, so it'll probably be Monday.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm going to request the slides again. I requested the ones from Tuesday and I didn't get them.
I did.
Didn't get it?
I didn't get them.
I didn't get them from Tuesday. No.
That's weird. Well, send it to me again just to be safe for Tuesday as well as for today. And I'll go check in my email again. It's quite possible I got your message, and I had to unlock it and maybe I just forgot. It's possible. Usually I see it on the same day or the next day and I send it to you. So I apologize for that. But I'll send both.
So can I request both at the same time?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. You can just say which class it is, Word and Windows 10, and then I'll send both of them to you. They're quite big files and they're in PDF format, but you can print them out, you can read them. The PDF is so that nobody can change it. It can't be changed, right? Because it's copyrighted stuff. But you can print it as to your heart's content. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
You do likewise.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.